And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. Happy New Year. It's our very first episode of 2021. We made it. I'm so excited to be to be here. Yep, Chris chimed in. Yeah, 2021. I let the intro music play a little extra long today because of that awesome fiddle playing, which features our guest today, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ihrig Christopher, joining me here today. How you doing, Ihrig?
Good. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing really good. I'm thrilled. Hey, Connie, I'm thrilled that
Happy New Year.
that we have turned the corner on 2020. And hey, Katie.
Hey, Katie.
And Jean. Wash hands. Yes. And I'm just, yeah, I mean, I get to spend an hour hanging out with my bandmate. This will be probably as much time as we've spent together here in 2020. And so 2021 is already starting off right. And speaking of starting off right, I know a lot of people have been on vacation, but it's still 4 o'clock on Friday, which means it's happy hour. And so I want to know who's out there and what you're drinking. I'm sticking with a little red wine today in honor of the album. It will make sense as you listen to it. How about you, Ihrig? What are you drinking today?
I'm matching Tony, red wine out of the box, the Boda.
Cheers.
Which I can't tell you the vintage, but yeah, there it is.
All right. Cheers to all of you. Thank you. I see some people are there, Joe and Beverly. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this first Friday of 2021, and I can't think of a better way to get things going than to revisit this solo fiddle album that Ihrig put out in the quiet night, and I'm excited for everybody else to hear it. I think you'll probably agree with me that it's just a perfect soundtrack for this time of year, especially this year. But before we get started, for those who are unfamiliar with Ihrig Christopher and his fiddling skills and his musical background, Ihrig, do you mind just letting people know a little bit about you, where you come from, and how you got into the fiddle, and where this particular album fits in to your kind of musical biography?
Well, I come from the fiddling mecca of the Twin Cities. I started off playing classically when I was very young, and kind of drifted into fiddle over the years. My grandpa was a fiddle player, so I guess I had some exposure to it from him. But played in a bunch of alt country bands throughout my 20s, and then eventually kind of sort of specialized in bluegrass.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know how far you wanted me to go. I could take it. I could take it all the way up to the album. But.
Well, why don't we get there? That's a good place to stop, just to let people know that I feel like there should be a disclaimer. Ihrig and I are bandmates. We play in a band called the High 48 Bluegrass Band together. We know each other very well, so sometimes I forget, what other people might want to know about you. Bluegrass is one of those things that it means something different to different people. And fiddle music does as well. It kind of runs the gamut, and that's one of the things I think is interesting about this album, is that it's not what I would consider a traditional bluegrass fiddle record. It really it spans a lot of different styles to my ear, and I thought maybe you could kind of talk a little bit about where this project came from. And how this, what you used to kind of put the pieces together to make this album the kind of cohesive piece that it is.
Well, I wanted to make something that was a little different from the music that I was playing with the High 48s, and the High 48s is pretty high energy, it's all kind of based on the live show really, and getting that sort of big, hard driving bluegrass energy across. And as a listener, that's not the stuff that I tend to listen to most. And at the time that I made this record, I was listening to a lot of jazz, a lot of albums from the ECM label in Germany, and it tends to be really kind of atmospheric and improvisational, and it's got this beautiful sort of icy Teutonic production. And so that's kind of what I was shooting for, to take what I do with the High 48s and to put it through this kind of other lens.
Right on. Yeah. And I also am a fan of that ECM label. For people who are into the quality of recordings, I don't think that you can get any better than the stuff that I hear on that. I don't know what kind of, voodoo and magic they use. Probably just really good rooms and really good mics and preamps, but it sounds so
and good
good.
musicians.
Yeah. Well, before we move forward, I just wanted to acknowledge we did hear from some folks out there, Anne and Connie and Penny and Alex and Tom. The guys are all joining in, letting us know they're having wine and G&Ts. Tom misses the Astor Cafe breakfast and the High 48s. Thanks, Tom. Chris, of course, is representing Utapils, and we have Teresa down in Rochester. And I just want to thank you guys for being here. Once again, this is the Back Catalog Listening Party, your weekly musical happy hour where we hang out, listen to tunes, and talk about it. And today we're hanging with Mr. Ihrig Christopher, talking about his solo record, In the Quiet Night. And these are fiddle tunes from the Upper Midwest. So these aren't all your tunes. Can you talk a little bit about this collection? What makes this record what it is?
Well, I wrote a grant proposal, and so it was funded by the Minnesota State Arts Board. And when I was writing the grant, I thought, like, how can I make the kind of record that I want to make that will also get funded? And I thought the Minnesota angle would be appealing to them, and it was to me. So it worked. They funded it, and that the album would not have gotten made otherwise. So I found fiddle tunes from the Upper Midwest, but I also wrote my own fiddle tunes from the Upper Midwest, and I wasn't just trying to play bluegrass tunes. I kind of drew from a number of fiddling traditions, and I guess we'll see a little bit of that today.
Right on. Well, let's just jump into the first track. The first track we have lined up is Melinda. Do you want to say anything about it before we listen to it, or should we listen to it and then chat about it?
Let's chat about it afterwards.
All right. This is Ihrig Christopher, Melinda from In the Quiet Night on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Yeah, that is Eric Christopher with Melinda on the back catalog listening party. We're listening to his 2012 release, In the Quiet Night, and that guitar playing on that track, it still gives me goosebumps.
Me too.
And for folks familiar with that show, you will recognize that guitar player. Mr. Dean McGraw guested on that track, according to the liner notes. How did that collaboration come to play?
Well, maybe I should back up a little bit and say where this tune comes from. This is a tune from a fiddle player from, I don't know if he's originally from Iowa, but he kind of made his career in Iowa. He played on a radio station, KFNF, in Shenandoah, Iowa. And this is a very old recording of him. It's Russell Casey Jones. And this is also the station that oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. The bass player from the Ornette Coleman, Charlie Hayden, the bass player from the Charlie Hayden Quartet. When he was young, he played bass in his family band, and they had a regular show on this same station. So somehow along the way, the sort of the jazz stream and the folk stream sort of crossed in my mind, and I thought, who better to sort of kind of mine that thing, whatever it is, than Dean McGraw. Dean McGraw, he's kind of, his entire career, he's had one foot in the jazz world and one foot in the folk world. He did this album on Red House Records that was really important to me when I was first starting to played bluegrass. The duo album with with Peter Shushko. It's a fantastic record.
Such a good record, yeah.
And it's wide open. I mean, there's so much back and forth between them. There's so much improvisation, but it's also really folky. It really sounds like it comes out of the sort of the bluegrass and old time tradition. So he did, I figured, well, I'll send him an email and see if he'll do it. And he did. He came over here one afternoon to my studio here where I did a lot of the recording, and he brought his beautiful Martin, I think it was a D18 out, and just played a few passes through the tune. And
wow. Yeah.
After about the third pass, I'm like, I think we got it.
You can go home now.
You can go home now.
Oh, it sounds great. I looked back, and it looks like episode 8 was Dean McGraw. So for those of you who remember that episode, and yeah, he definitely kind of is one of those people that can bring things, disparate genres together into something that's completely relevant. And speaking of that kind of stuff, I'm also hearing a pedal steel layering underneath this whole album. Talk about that. I mean, that's not the first instrument I would think of for a fiddle player to choose for a song.
Well, this is a pedal steel player that I have some history with. I played in a band called the Minor Planets, which really has almost nothing to do with bluegrass. It's kind of an old country band. It's kind of my passion project. I really love that band. But Jimmy Johnson, the pedal steel player on this track and on the rest of this album, is just an incredibly, I don't know. He's a team player. He really hears the song and tries to serve the song. And you almost feel his presence in the song more than you hear it sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I really love that about him. He's just a really great, tasteful player, and he almost has kind of this ambient quality to his playing that I really, really love.
Yeah, it almost reminds me a bit of like the drone, of a fiddle, even.
Yes.
Which is something I didn't really think about until I listened back and hear the different layers that are building on top of each other. Now, were you like doing the art direction here? Were you saying, all right, you lay down this and then you come in and do that and put it all together? Or did you just kind of let everybody come in and do their thing?
I went over to Jimmy's house with some recording gear, and we just ran take after take after take. I just let him kind of do a brain dump on all the, all the tracks that he played on. And then I sort of edited it together later, which was a lot easier than you might think. It kind of just, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I thought maybe you sent a picture of where all of this magic was happening, and a lot of people, we've done a lot of episodes, where people are in these like $1 million studios, And you don't need $1 million studio to sound like $1 million. Ihrig has a very nice setup, great instruments, great mics, and great playing. And I think that's the key. And I think that's what really struck me. When I listened back, I forgot that you did this album basically right here. Folks that are watching the video here can see his studio. He's just, sitting in front of a microphone in his basement. And yet, when you have that attention to detail and that much skill and experience, it can sound like it was recorded together in a major studio. And anyways, I think the production ended up really, really great. Did you end up bringing someone in to help with any of that kind of final production stuff or engineering stuff?
I brought in Tom Garneau, who used to.
Oh yeah.
He used to be the house engineer at Paisley Park, and he's an incredibly talented engineer, and it's just fun to sit with him while you mix and have him tell you Prince stories. Yeah. So I got a lot of Prince stories. I don't know if I can repeat all of them, but yeah, he did an amazing job. He comes from sort of this funk and R&B background with Prince, but he did such a great and sort of like sensitive job with the acoustic instruments, which is not always true of people who are really good at mixing, drums and electric guitars and keyboards and things like that. It's a different skill set. So. And
he ended up doing the mixing then, you say?
He did. We did it kind of together, but he definitely did the heavy lift on it because I'm not. That's not my skill set.
It really feels like a band that's in a room together. So I think that's a huge testament to. I know frequencies and things like that play a big part in that perception of depth, and it sounds fantastic.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Well, I want to hear another track off this record. The next tune that we have queued up is called Chicago Waltz. Another definitely Midwestern theme here. Where's this one come from?
This one comes from a fiddle player from Minnesota, Sarah. I think she pronounces it Puyunen. She used to play with a band. It was basically a duo, I think, called Kaivama, and they did a beautiful record over at. I think they did it at Wild Sound.
Oh, nice!
Just shortly before I did this record, and I heard this track, and I'm like, I've got to record this song. I think I mentioned in the liner notes that I just envy this song. I wish I would have, or this tune. I wish I would have written it. It's like a novel in 3 minutes. It's got such arc to it, and it's just she comes from a background of traditional Finnish folk music, but she also has kind of sort of this avant-garde side, I think. I'm on her email list and kind of followed her over the years. It sounds like she's doing maybe more experimental kind of music now, and but this album is just fantastic, and I'm going to shut up and we can listen to it.
Yeah, well, you set it up quite well. This is really a standout track on the album. I wish I wrote this one too. This is great. This is the Chicago Waltz, as arranged by Eric Christopher here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Yeah, the Chicago Waltz. Eric Christopher here on the back catalog listening party. Man, it really does have a lot of different, I don't know, there's like a story arc, like you said. I kind of felt like a beginning, middle, and end. And man, I love the rhythms that are going on without a drum. There is some really cool chopping and on both the fiddle and the mandolin. Can you talk a little bit about how you put together kind of a rhythm track for a song like this? Like, did you just is that how you felt it going into it, or did you were you thinking of it as a like a drum kit? How did that come about?
I think this album was a lot of trial and error. I remember doing it in layers. I would start with just playing the basic melody through, oftentimes with a click track underneath it, and then just sort of like building layer upon layer upon layer. And usually, each thing you add sort of adds something completely different to it, and you wind up taking a lot of stuff away. And I don't know if I'm quite answering your question, but it's almost, when you watch people draw who are really good at drawing, how they use the eraser, so strategically. I'm always like putting something in but taking a lot out, and it almost didn't work. And then toward the end, after all this editing, it just sort of all cohered. It was really, I'm still amazed that it turned out as well as it did.
Well, it's kind of related to that question. Chris has a question here. Are you playing all the fiddle parts?
Yes. So I'm playing the fiddle, and I also played an octave violin, which is basically.
I thought I heard something else in there.
It's a violin with the strings that are an octave below, basically. It brings you down kind of close to the cello range, and doesn't have that same big bodied sound that the cello has, but it sounds pretty good when you're right on a mic. Yeah,
it really does. It fills it out.
I also heard some banjo on that track.
All right, full disclosure. Yes, Eric did ask me to play on the album, and it was fun. It was such a challenge for me to interpret this style, and then your interpretation of this style on a kind of a traditional bluegrass instrument. But it was a joy, and it was fun to listen back. I haven't heard those parts in a really long time, and I like the way it was edited in. The banjo can as most people would agree, can overpower things. But again, a testament to the mixing and the ear of both you and Tom to I kind of almost didn't notice it, in a good way.
Well, this didn't showcase your playing as much as some of the other tracks did, but you serve the tune.
Well, thanks.
As every good musician does. So.
Well, speaking of my participation in this, when I was prepping for this this episode, I was looking for images I could find from the time when we were putting this together, and I did find one here that I wanted to share with folks. It was the album release party. I believe it was in May, maybe, of 2012 or 13. And there's the gang. And for those, again, who remember our episode with Dean McGraw, there's Dean. Do you want to talk about the other players on the album?
So we have in that picture, and also on the album, we've got Marty Maroney, which, if you're tuning in, you probably know him. He used to sing and play guitar for the High 48s. He's a force of nature. He's the loudest guitar player I've ever played with, and the biggest personality on stage. He's just unmistakable. He's great. And then we have Rich Casey, who Dave Towsley played on the record, and he wasn't available for the show, so Rich kindly filled in. To his right, we have Dana Thompson, who played in that band with me called The Minor Planets. She's fantastic, and
featured on one of the songs we're going to hear today.
Featured on one of the songs that we're going to hear today. Then there's some dude there who's super pale, and then there's Anthony Ihrig, the one and only.
Well,
oh my gosh, I'm sorry, did I mention Dean McGraw?
I did. Yeah, okay. You can't miss him right up front there. He's got his energy drink or something there.
Something. God, he is amazing on stage too. He just brings this like sort of beautiful chaos to
Yes.
everything on stage.
Yeah,
Really.
he's just one of my all-time favorites, and just seeing this picture kind of brought back all those memories.
Yeah.
And it was just it was a great kind of group of people that you assembled. And when you were thinking about the different instruments and things like that, I'm curious, again, was it per song? Did you think, well, this song just needs a little extra, Dean McGraw magic, or does this song need the kind of Marty Maroney guitar playing? Like how, like as someone who's kind of putting this together for a grant, how did you choose this cast of characters?
Well, I mean, the first consideration is that I wanted to have musicians that were from the upper Midwest.
Yeah.
So rather than hiring out musicians in, say, Nashville, which I suppose I could have done, I wanted to have people who had roots here. And it really depended on the song. I mean, some of the songs are much more straight ahead bluegrass. And in which case it was almost Eric and the High 48s. I mean, we just,
Right.
hey, let's bring the band over and we'll record some of the songs. But, Dean McGraw, that like Melinda, that's the first song that we listened to. That's not something that we would ever do live with the High 48s. It's just way too sort of slow and quiet and wide open. And I was really just kind of hungering for something like that, because the High 48s is super, like, our shows are really kind of high energy and hyped up all the time. I wanted to stretch out and relax a little bit. So, there are musicians whose vibe that is too. And so, yeah.
Well, the songs that you collected, you've been able to translate into that other kind of vibe that, I don't want to say it's the antithesis of hardcore, hard drive, and bluegrass, but it's definitely, another side of the spectrum. But knowing you as I've known you for many, many years now, you also tend not to write the hardcore bluegrass music, but you end up writing stuff that, really kind of defies genres, in my opinion. But a couple of the songs on this record were written by you, and I think that is worth talking about a little bit, because I think for a lot of people, they can kind of get their head around writing songs with lyrics, that have a story, and this is how it started, and I was inspired by that, and the lyrics can kind of help tell that story, and the music kind of backs up the emotions and the things that are happening in there. But when you're writing music that is just notes, I'm just curious about your process here. Does inspiration hit you while you're doing the dishes and then you go and play, or do you sit down and have writing sessions? Like, what is your process as a composer?
It's totally different for writing music with lyrics than it is for instrumental music, and I feel like I've always got tunes sort of cycling through my head day and night. Sometimes when I'm dreaming too. I always have melodies there. That part of it comes really easily, and I can sort of churn out instrumentals. Songs with lyrics are a struggle. They're just incredibly difficult, and I'm not nearly as prolific with that. So I always, I'll be out for a walk with my dog, and I just have a bit of a melody kind of kicking around in the back of my head, and then I'll go home and kind of work it out on the instrument. And sometimes I'm not sure what instrument it's going to be on. I also play mandolin on this record too, and some tunes are better on the mandolin than on the fiddle, or some work on both. So.
Awesome. Well, the next tune that we have queued up is actually an Eric Christopher original, and it's the title track to the whole album, In the Quiet Night. Can you talk a little bit about this tune and where it came from?
This is just another one of those kind of random melodies that came to me. This one is actually, I worked it out on the mandolin. It's really, it's kind of like a cross-picked melody, so I was playing kind of arpeggiating chords, basically. That's something you can't do as easily on the violin or the fiddle. I really don't remember too much about how I came across this tune. It's been so long, but it was untitled for a really long time. And then I came across this Lee Poe poem that's the sort of, that one.
So for those
And it
who
seemed not-
could you
it
read it
seemed
for
right.
those who are just listening? Could you read the
Yeah.
poem?
The floor before my bed is bright, moonlight like hoarfrost in my room. I love that line. I lift my head and watch the moon. I drop my head and think of home.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave you the title for this song.
It seemed the right mood of it, and that the pastel art below it.
Here, let me get that
I
back
think
up
is
here.
really
Maybe that'd be a good time to maybe talk a little bit about the album art here.
Yeah.
Because it seems to fit right with the title, and it seems to fit with the vibe of this record in so many ways, and thus the red wine here on a cold winter's afternoon. I'm going to get the album cover up here, and so people can see it. But it's really a cool piece, and I'd love to know a little bit about the artist and where this came from.
It's called Orion, and the artist is Chris Martineau Gellerman. She now lives in the Twin Cities, but I think at the time she lived in Wisconsin. She does these. This is pastel. These take an incredibly long time to make these drawings or paintings. I'm not sure what you'd consider it, but and it's from what I understand, a process of sort of layering over and over and over and over again. It's kind of how this album was made, it has this really, it's kind of a luminous painting. There's like light, even though it's in the middle of the night. It's got this sort of glow to it that I think is really amazing. It came across really well, I think, printed on the CD cover. It's so small.
Yeah, and it really does fit this title track. So it's a great visual as we listen to it. This is "In the Quiet Night" by Eric Christopher on the Back Catalog Listening Party. That is "In the Quiet Night," the title track from Eric Christopher's 2012 release, solo fiddle album of songs from the Upper Midwest. Some that he wrote like that, and some that he collected. And man, that sounded so good. We've got some great feedback here. Yes, I agree. Penny says, gorgeous. Gene says, listening to this album, the perfect way to start the year. I agree. And Chris, nice banjo touch. Well, thanks.
I was going to say another nice banjo
Thank you,
performance.
sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It's so much going on. Before we get any farther, I do want to remind everybody listening that Ihrig, like everyone else, is been in the service industries, anyways, have been sidelined by this pandemic. And one of the goals of this show is to make sure that artists keep making their art. And the best way to do that is to support them in some way. And we have a couple ways that we put in the comments here. One is to throw a little something in his tip jar. He's got a PayPal link that we put in the comments that you could do. And then the other thing you could do to support him is purchase this album. It is available as a digital release on Bandcamp, and we have the URL there, ihrigonfiddle.bandcamp.com. And Ihrig, is this also available as a physical item at this point?
It is, but through me, basically, or at the merch table, which no longer exists.
I can attest to that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So if you're interested, Ihrig does have a website, ihrigonfiddle.com. I put that out on there, and I'm sure you could go right to the contact page and send him a message, and he'd be happy to open that box of CDs and mail you one.
I can send one along. $15 shipping included. So.
Oh well, what a bargain
Yes.
for all this great music. It's a tough time for us musicians, but we just turned the corner on the new year, and we might actually have some gigs coming our way. Oh, look at this. Anne is going to send you her address, and Ihrig's gonna send it. Yeah, it does sound really, really great on CD. Bandcamp does allow you to download the high resolution files, but I have my copy here, and I gotta say it's worth a little extra to pop it in the CD and get full resolution, and then you get this great album artwork as well. I'd like to see a vinyl re-release because that is a killer picture that would look great on my wall. But then you get to all the liner notes as well.
But I think CDs are the new vinyl. I really do. I'm starting to appreciate them with a kind of a nostalgia that I used to have for vinyl. So yeah, it's kind of nice.
I remember being so bummed about the CD format. It sounded too digital and too sterile. But after a few years of listening to streaming music,
oh my god,
man, does it sound good! You get all the bits and the pieces all put together, and it sounds so good. And speaking of sounding good, the next tune that we have lined up is another original tune. And this is one that has made its way into the high 48's repertoire from time to time, called The Lost Time Waltz. Do you want to speak to this tune a little bit before we play it?
This, of all the tunes that I've written, this is the one that I've probably been playing for the longest. It was a tune that I wrote sort of late in the year as the snow was falling, and it's a waltz. Waltzes don't get a ton of play in a bluegrass band, but every now and then we're like, we need to play a waltz, and there it is on the set list. It's usually during if we're playing a wedding and somebody wants to dance slowly, and then we'll play Lost Time Waltz. I love this tune though. I'm prouder of this tune than just about anything I've written, because it's got that. We talked about how some tunes have like a story arc to them, and I think this one has that, and it takes a few sort of unexpected turns, but it's still very melodic.
Yeah, I agree, and it's also it lives up to its title. It's got this wistfulness that I just love playing it. Usually when we play it at weddings, folks, we'll change the title a little bit. We'll call it Wedding Time Waltz or things like that. And then of course everyone's like feeling very sweet. But if you know the real title here, Lost Time Waltz, think about this title as you listen to this tune, because it really fits it. It's one of my faves that you've written. So this is Eric Christopher, The Lost Time Waltz, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Oh, yeah. That is the Lost Time Waltz from Eric Christopher here on the back catalog listening party, and some great comments on that one. Beautiful, Ann says, and Teresa says, sliding double stops are very nice. Eric, you got to tell those folks who don't know what a double stop is. What is a double stop? Because I agree with you, Teresa, and I love that part, those parts of the song.
It's just two notes played together. It's fiddle speak for two notes played at the same time.
Kind of a fiddle chord.
A fiddle chord, and traditional bluegrass is full of them. Some of the great, like really traditional bluegrass players, they're kind of, I think, trying to emulate pedal steel or steel guitar, which is full of these two-note chords used kind of melodically. And so that's that. And I have to say that's one of my favorite Anthony Ihrig solos right there.
Oh.
It's just really, it's really,
you.
yeah, it goes somewhere.
Well, I appreciate that, and Connie mentions missing coming to see the High 48s. Thanks, Connie.
Yeah.
We miss it too. Hearing this is like maybe one of the only songs, that I play regularly that we've played on the show, and that I'm not playing, and I could feel it during this one. Man, I really miss being together on stage and doing that, but this is the next best thing, and it sounds fantastic. Once again, folks, you are listening to the Back Catalog Listening Party. We're talking with Eric Christopher, playing fiddle and mandolin, writing songs on his 2012 release In the Quiet Night, fiddle tunes from the Upper Midwest. And man, this hour is going by way too fast, and I definitely want to make sure we squeeze in another tune. And the next song that we have lined up here is it does not come from the bluegrass or old time genre. Girl from the North Country. Now, how did you come to pick this one? Tell us a little bit about it.
I don't know. I mean, I feel a little sheepish about this one because it's not a fiddle tune. It's a Bob Dylan song, but I was talking earlier about the Minor Planets, this band that I played with, kind of an alt country band. Someone once described them as trance Americana, which I thought was perfect. But this is Jimmy Johnson, the pedal steel player that I mentioned earlier, and Dana Thompson, the singer that I worked with in that band. I just I wanted to get the band back together, and
you made it happen,
and made it, for a song, and we did this one, and I think it turned out really, really nice. And fiddle albums, one of my chief complaints about them is that they're all fiddle tunes. I mean, there's no break. And sometimes you need a break. Sometimes you need a vocal tune, and so I thought this could be that sort of palate cleanser.
Well, I think it fits the kind of the mood of the album so well, and Dana Thompson is just a fantastic singer, and I think it's a great addition to the album. A lot of you folks will know it from maybe the Bob Dylan version, but this is uniquely Eric Christopher from In the Quiet Night on the Back Country. Sorry, I was reading the album cover on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Please see for me if her hair hangs long. That's the way I remember her best. I'm wondering if she remembers me at all. Many times I've often prayed in the darkness of my night, in the brightness of my day. So if you're traveling in the North Country Fair, where the winds hit heavy on the borderline, remember me to one who lives there. She once was a true love of mine.
The girl from the North Country, Eric Christopher, on the back catalog listening party. Man, that it has the same kind of wistfulness of the other tracks, and it just shows what a kind of vocal instrument the fiddle really is. I couldn't help but just think about your fiddle lines and Dana's singing. And, I don't know if it was conscious or you guys just played together a long time, but it really felt like you guys were, singing together on that one.
Well, we've had some practice. We had been playing or singing together since probably the early to mid '90s. So yeah, it's and I think what your remark about the fiddle and the voice being so alike, I think that's spot on. I always tell students that the fiddle's a prosthetic voice. It does things your voice can't do, but it has that same sort of quality. So.
Well, and I think that's a good time to mention that Eric is not only a fantastic fiddle player and songwriter and performer, but also a very experienced teacher, a very great teacher, very thoughtful teacher. And right now during pandemic times, we're not playing. You're doing a whole bunch of teaching, aren't you?
I am. That part of what I do has kind of grown since the pandemic.
And just kind of moved it all online?
Well, most of it, yeah, and some of it masked and distanced in person. But yeah, that's been great. I've been putting my full weight into teaching.
Well, for those aspiring fiddle players out there who would like to learn from one of the best, you can head on over to ericonfiddle.com. We've got the link here. I'll throw it in the comments as well, where you can find out more about Eric. And you can, there's links to the CD. You can learn about his teaching and what he has to offer. You have some stuff up on YouTube as well. Is that correct?
I do. Yep.
So, that's you guys can kind of fiddle your way through the rest of this pandemic. But speaking of YouTube, Eric and I, we've been conspiring with our other bandmates and really wanted to make sure that we weren't starting 2021 off the same way that we ended it, which was not playing at all. And for those of you who know the band we play in, we have spent the last 8 years, every January and February, playing what we called the Bluegrass Brunch at a great venue in Minneapolis called the Astor Cafe. And after a whole year of not playing any music, the thought of missing the brunch after 8 years, 8 consecutive years, it just was too much to bear. So we have decided to bring it online. It's not going to be the same, but just like this show, a big focus is going to be on community. And that was what it was always about. And so what we've done is put together kind of a roster of good friends of ours that are going to join us every Saturday in January and February on YouTube to just play music together. The High 48s will trade songs from our homes for the first 30 minutes, and then after that, we are going to invite our friends. And we have our very first guest is another friend of the Back Catalog Listening Party, Miss Becky Schlegel, and her husband Heath Loy, who's a fantastic banjo player. That's actually tomorrow. It's 11 a.m. to noon Central Time. And, for you guys listening in real time, it's Becky's birthday tomorrow. So it's going to be even more fun. And it was really kind of the idea was to take some of the elements of this show and bring it there. So if you want to hear more from Eric, and some more live music, you can check out the Bluegrass Brunch. I thought I'd do a little cross promotion. From those people who are very familiar with the show, you'll notice that we're missing the amazing host Ellen Stanley, Mother Banjo, who is actually had some family obligations here on this New Year's Day and couldn't make it, but she sends her best to all of you, and I sure appreciate you guys coming and listening. And I want to thank Mr. Eric Christopher for joining us here for this hour. It went by so fast. It was so much fun to revisit this. Thank you so much, Eric, for coming on.
Thanks so much. This is fun. I haven't heard this album since about when it was released, so this is great. This is really fun.
It was a ton of fun, and it was made possible by our Patreon patrons. So I want to make sure we mention everyone: Penny, Ann, Melinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John. You guys make this happen. That's how we can afford this fancy streaming software, and that's why we can we're going to be in 2021 making this into an audio podcast so that people can enjoy it just listening while they're in the car and driving around. And we really appreciate it. If you're interested in being part of the Back Catalog Listening Party, you can check out the link scrolling there. It's patreon.com/Back Catalog Listening Party. It was started out as a pandemic experience, but as here we are in 2021, and it's just been a highlight of our weeks getting to revisit old, wonderful albums that we love so much, and it's kind of a lost art. I think Eric and I are people who have spent many car trips in the High 48's van talking about records that we love and geeking out about the songwriting and the recording and the arrangements and stuff. And that's what this show is all about. And we so appreciate all of you who have been with us for the first 40 episodes. This is episode 40, wow. And we really appreciate it. Once again, Eric, thank you so much. For those of you who are tuning in real time, next week we have a very special guest, Mr. Dom Flemons from the Carolina Chocolate Drops, a Grammy Award-winning artist and just amazing musician who's now out on his own as the American songster. It's going to be a really, really great episode. I hope you can tune in next Friday. And until then, Happy New Year to all of you. And we'll see you next time on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Cheers.